On this episode of Real Estate on the Rocks, we've got Dustin Brohm.
Welcome to Real Estate on the Rocks, where you get top shelf real estate conversations served straight up, never watered down. Here's your host, Dave Snowberger.
All right, welcome back to Real Estate on the Rocks. We've got a special guest today. Joined in the studio with us is Dustin Brohm. Dustin, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
We're doing great over here. Also, we have on today, we have Marshall Tucker.
How's it going?
And then we've got James the Butcher Mendez.
What's going on?
Everybody knows why we call him the Butcher.
I don't. You're going to have to recap that.
All right, so we call James the Butcher because through these the trials and tribulations of podcasting, we've lost episodes. We've lost half of episodes. We've interviewed some pretty big guests out there, and they've never made it to air because James has lost the episode, didn't hit record on the episode, things like that. So we've deemed him a new nickname pretty much every time we come on, from the new guy, the Butcher, and then it just goes on and on and on. So we kind of we're three guys in an office, and we love to kind of banter with each other, and so we just continue to call him the Butcher.
I'll put him on blast. I see.
Yeah. Anyway,
I've done all that too, James. I've done all that too.
Exactly.
I know it happens.
Yep.
Part of the
So
game.
let's get into it real quick. Dustin Brohm, you are the host of Massive Agent Podcast. I know that you are industry connected for realtors and mortgage loan officers. You have the Massive Agent Society. You are the co-founder of the Industry Syndicate Real Estate Podcast Network, where I believe you have about 30 podcasts or so.
Yeah, 29.
29. That's pretty awesome. And then you've gone on the speaking tours in the past year, I guess. You've been with Inman a few times. Gary V's, what's that, 2021? What was it?
Agent 2021 last January. Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. And then there's a few more out there. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a marketer who sells homes, and I've been an agent in Salt Lake City for about 9 years. And first half of my career was total disaster, starving to death, could not make ends meet. And that doesn't mean that I wasn't gradually getting better, because I was, but when you're doing something that just doesn't work, or that's not congruent with you and who you are and what you like to do, it doesn't work. And so I'm like, wait a minute, I hear about all these people making multiple six-figure incomes, and they're going on all these vacations, and I can't get groceries this week. What the hell? And so I realized that my approach to getting new clients needed to change. So I switched from chasing down business, trying to convince people, and cold calling, door knocking, hoping that I can get in the door, among 5 other agents for a listing presentation. I changed that to attraction marketing, content marketing, attracting clients to me through content I put out, which at the time was like, is that a real thing? Like I could really just do some videos and write some articles, and people will call me to hire me. Sounded too good to be true, but I found mentors that were doing it and have been doing it. And they're like, yeah, just do this. And, so that paid off fairly quickly for me, which is not normal. About 3 months in, I had someone who found a YouTube video, and basically I was ranting on Snapchat about why Zillow sucks, the Zestimates and everything. And I downloaded that Snapchat video, I put it on YouTube, and someone found it locally here in Salt Lake. And that led them to my website. They called me about 3 months or so after I launched my website and everything, and really went down this road. And they're like, hey, we need to buy a place. We think you'd be fun to work with. Let's do it. I'm like, you don't have to interview me or anything. They're like, no. And so that validated the whole thing. There were still some struggles afterwards as I kept building it, but it proved that the method that content marketing works. And so that completely changed everything. And then I just started sharing with other agents what I had done and what I was doing. And that led me to what I'm doing today, which is speaking at conferences, coaching, training, doing my podcast, and, all in the name, like you guys have a similar agent in mind who's stuck. They're struggling for whatever reason. They're trying to figure this ridiculously hard business out. And I know what it's like to be in that spot. And so I feel an obligation, I guess, to just share what's worked for me.
Fantastic. That's a great answer. Let's dive into that real quick. I mean, what do you find that worked for you, and when did you pivot? I mean, you've been in for about 9 years. How many years did it take you to really kind of start figuring it out? What year was that?
It was about halfway into my career. So 4.5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, something like that. I started, like, out of necessity. I just went to Google and typed in like how to get real estate leads. You do that today, be prepared to get on some ridiculous email lists and funnels and Facebook ads that'll follow you till you die, which, respect to the marketers, it's just so saturated. But back then I came across Easy Agent Pro, the website company that I still use today. And they had a great, like they were doing content marketing to get more real estate agents to get their websites. So they were teaching about content marketing while doing it themselves. And I'm like, well, this is self-evident. This obviously works for them. It's got to work for consumers. So I launched a website. I started blogging. And guys, English class in high school, like, I think it is the most worthless class ever. We know how to speak. We know how to write. Well, for the most part. Kids these days don't, but whatever. And to think that now I'd write and I'd blog as like my profession just didn't make any sense. But I'm like, what the hell? I'll try it because I'm starving. And I did. I just started writing the way that I speak, not worrying about being this Pulitzer Prize winner. I just wanted it to be me, and it worked. People started resonating with it. They liked it. They're like, this is a fun read. You know, they can get to know your personality through words. And so I was like, well, maybe there's something to this. And I just kept doing it. Because I didn't have any other choice. I guess I was just too damn stubborn to quit. I just kept doing it, knowing that eventually it would pay off, but wondering every day, oh my gosh, like, when will this ever happen? But yeah, so the last 4 years or so has just been one thing leading to another, and it's all practice. It's all perspective and experience. And then when the next platform comes out, or the next thing, you've been practicing the last however long, doing different things that all help you with what you're going to do next. So it's just been fun.
Right on. So, I mean, let's kind of like just dive deep on the content marketing, really kind of what's been working for you and everything else. Because we can go down the path and do all the BS of, like, you know, do you do property tour videos, all that stuff that I just don't think that stuff works any longer. And most of the people who are doing that are just dying by that. And no one's really just willing to turn the camera around and start creating content to get it out there. Like, I'm afraid this isn't about me, but I'm a little bit intimidated by the blogging stuff, right? So I'm not an English pro. I sit here on a podcast and I go, and I lose my thought and I lose my train of thought. And I try to pay attention with the worst ADD ever, right? And however, I have a thriving real estate career. And so I've just tried to take that and be myself and turn that around. And maybe just being the genuine is the best way about it. I don't have to be scripted. I don't have to be, you know, just perfect on everything I say. And I just said, screw it. I don't care what people think anymore. So that's helped me. And I actually got a little bit from you over the past year, and a few other people in the industry, is like, just stop trying to be like this perfect real estate agent and just go out there and have a little fun with it. And if you want to grow your podcast, do it. So let's dive on all this stuff right here, the content marketing. What are you finding is working for you most right now in the real estate business? I know it's working in the other stuff that's getting you more opportunities out there to talk in front of more people. However, in your personal real estate business, what is that?
Yeah, it's honestly the same stuff. So doing videos, being yourself, not worrying about being scripted or anything like that. Just launching a video show in your local town where it's not market updates. You're not talking about real estate tips. You're talking about the new restaurant that came to town. You're interviewing the food truck owner. You're talking to one of the high school football coaches about the rivalry game coming up or that just happened. You just become the local show, and it's amazing. And look, there's no one right or wrong way to do this. If you hate being on video, I get it. I do think you need to work up to being okay with it. For me, that was Snapchat. 10 seconds at a time. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh. After 6 months or so, I'm like, I don't even care if the camera's on anymore. I used to. So you've got to get to that point, but it doesn't have to be video. If you hate being on video, podcast. If you don't like speaking at all, just write. I mean, there's something for you, but you have to get out there. Reason being, you have to be found, you have to be noticed, you have to be known at a local level. The only way to do that is to be seen everywhere. And there's also certain things you can do to give you credibility in the eyes of those who see it, like being a show host. Guys, all you have to do is launch your own podcast at a local level, and now you are a local celebrity. You're a show host, just like the radio show, the morning radio guy. Like they get invited to different events and stuff. Why? Because they talk on a microphone in the morning. Well, you could do that on a podcast. You could do that on Facebook Live, on YouTube, on just Instagram stories, for God's sakes. So all of that stuff works. I think that more than the specific medium you choose is what you're talking about and how you're doing it. Dave, you're spot on. You didn't want to be scripted. You just wanted to be yourself. That's literally the way to success. If you are scripted, if you try to figure out little hacks so you can read a script while you're on video, and I've had a few people push back. They're like, well, you can actually get a teleprompter. You're still reading. Just know what you're talking about. If you need to go through 10 different takes to say it naturally, do that, but don't freaking read. People do not understand that the real value of video is people can see your body language, your those little teeny things, how you say things. It's really hard to do that through text only. I mean, have you ever gotten in an argument through a text message, right? Because there's always some miscommunication with tone. That doesn't happen with video. People see how you're saying something and the energy that you're saying it. And what that means is anyone watching can now connect with you at a subconscious personal level. And so when you're putting video out there, you're going to repel some people when you're being yourself because they don't like your personality. They don't like the way you say things. That's fine. But what makes that great is you then attract the right people who do like your personality. They think you're fun. They think you're funny. They whatever. And so that you just have to be okay with that. As long as you are putting out content that they actually care about in an authentic way, you're going to be successful with it. It doesn't matter which medium it's on. And when I say content they care about, stop talking about real estate. Stop it. If you don't talk about real estate for the first 6 months, I'll be so proud of you. I'm telling you, talking about real estate is the fastest way to kill your audience or to just completely stop it from growing because nobody cares. Nobody cares. The internet is completely saturated, even locally, with agents saying, I'm an agent. Let me, there was 36 days on market and blah, blah, blah. And check out my new listing. Nobody cares, but they do want to know what's going on in their community. So just say, hey, if you're doing a video show or a podcast, welcome to, the podcast with Dustin Brohm, an agent with EXP in Salt Lake. Boom, into the content. Never talk about it again. That's all you need to do. And you're going to become the local influencer and local celebrity, and you're going to get them all.
Fantastic. That's exactly, you hit the nail on the head. And I really do believe that a lot of people talk about this 80-20 rule and how they should keep real estate in their personal lives 80-20. I think it's more of a 93-7. And the 7% really has to be about the real estate. And typically we have a little show called Wilco Eats, and I go out and I mention, hey, as top producing realtors in the area, that's it. The rest is about the food. And I don't mention it one more time. I don't wear a branded shirt. I don't wear anything like that. But if they pick up that I'm a realtor, cool. They don't like me. Great. I just self-eliminated so many people that I don't have to go after and try to grab their attention anymore. They just self-eliminated. They deleted me. They muted me, whatever. Cool. So I definitely appreciate the validation on that. Going forward, what do you think your best, are you combining everything? Are you combining the YouTube? Is the podcast mostly? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Are you still messing with Snapchat? What medium right there of the social medias is your favorite that you're working with mostly?
That's a good question. So I try to do it all. I fail at that, as will most agents. Even somebody who goes full-time as a marketer, they can't do it all. So be okay with that. Just do your best and focus on what you think is the best. So what I think is the best for me, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, podcast. And I do not have a consistent YouTube presence. I put my podcast on there, but it's not even video. It's just the waveform audio thing. I get a few people that find it, but it's not ideal. I think there's way too much emphasis by other marketers that you listen to, especially if they've never actually been an agent. They don't understand all the different hats you have to wear as an agent, and marketing is like extra. It's crucial, but it's extra. They just talk about what's ideal. You need to be doing all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure, if you can get to the point where you can hire some help on the mechanics so you can do content on all that stuff, awesome. I can't do that yet. Most agents will never. That's fine. I think Facebook is way too damn powerful to ignore, not just with the ability to have conversations and still have your content seen and found in Facebook groups locally, but also the Facebook ads, being able to put money behind certain content and have new people see it. That's the thing. Your sphere of influence will see your stuff if you're doing a good job and asking questions and everything to get engagement up. But you need to grow that sphere. You need to get new people to see it. And the Facebook ads platform is more powerful than anything I've ever seen. It's not just about leads. It's not just about leads. It's about amplifying and increasing the potential audience of your stuff. LinkedIn, I think, is great at a local level to reach consumers. It's not as great as Facebook or Instagram, but I think Instagram stories specifically, Facebook, and some sort of local show, you've got to start moving towards doing that stuff. That's going to keep you plenty busy. But here's the thing, Dave, you've got to understand right from the get. If you're someone who does not do these things yet and you keep hearing about it and you're sick and tired of people like me and Dave and Marshall and everyone talking about doing content, well, you need to start because it's that powerful. I completely lost my train of thought of where I was going with that, but
happens all the time over here.
yeah, but
Yeah.
another squirrel moment.
How do you keep your ideas and your content fresh? Like, how do you keep coming up with new ideas?
I have no trouble coming up with ideas. Here's what's great about doing a show or doing content about your local area. Like if you're doing 10 tips for first-time home buyers, eventually you run out of decent topics. You just do. If it's about everything and anything that's happening locally, it's constantly changing. A new development's coming in, a historical building just burned down, and then you can follow that and what's going up in its place. Like mayors change, you can interview the new mayor, and it's constantly changing. I think people that run out of ideas are just overthinking it. The best thing that they could do, no matter what medium that they are on and what they're doing, they need to find out what interests them. So when you're scrolling through your news feed on whichever platform, start noticing what stops you, what makes you stop, what type of content. Is it video? Is it text? Is it text with emojis? Is it something else? Is it a link to an article? If so, what was it that made you stop? Start paying attention to it. And it's going to feel weird at first because you're like, I don't know, I just did. You'll start to notice maybe it was a colorful video that auto played, got your attention. What kept your attention? Where did your eyes go first? If you start doing that stuff consciously, then you can start doing your content in a similar way, because if it got your attention, it got somebody else's. And what was the content about? Nostalgic stuff kills it. If you look, some of the best stuff I've ever done, the most visited articles, the most watched videos that I've ever done have been like photos of this old mall that was torn down 10 years ago, or this old indoor fun center, family fun center, that everyone who grew up in Salt Lake remembers and loves, but it hasn't been there in 10 or 15 years. All of a sudden they start seeing that stuff in their news feed. They're like, oh my gosh, that's the Galleria. That's the Cottonwood Mall. Holy crap. And now they cannot help themselves but click through the photos and then click to the article and read more about it. And now they're on a real estate website and they don't even know it. And they don't even care. Nostalgia absolutely kills. But one thing I will say with topics, I come up with topics just like, I have too many ideas. I'm one of those people that I have too many and I have to focus. So I'll just take my notes on my Mac or my iPhone, because they sync together. Evernote does the same thing. Anytime I randomly think of an idea, I'll put it on a note. So if I'm ever like, oh my gosh, what do I do the podcast on this week? Or what do I do a video on today? I go to the list. and it's ever, it's always growing. So I just refer to that. If you've chosen something that you just can't think of ideas on, it's the wrong thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We do the same thing with our topics. Is if you run out of topics, you're a boring person, I believe, and nobody wants to hear from you in the first place, maybe. But
That's fair.
when we go out, I mean, we've gone before. We've looked at articles, and the funny thing is, we've looked at articles like, hey, this is a great article. And we get down to the bottom of it, and it's Dustin Brohm, and I'm just kind of like, oh, that's odd. That's kind of cool. But we'll typically take ideas from other places, and we want to talk about what agents want to hear about a lot of times. And then maybe the other 20% of the time is what we actually want to talk about, where we think we're adding value, right? So certainly appreciate where you come on that with the content. Let's get into TikTok real quick. I heard a podcast you did last week. I've done a couple shows so far where I've absolutely slammed TikTok and realtors using TikTok. And I came in the office the other day after downloading it. It's been on my phone for 3 years apparently, and I didn't know. So I started
back when it
with
was Musical.ly back in the day.
Yeah, I believe so. And I think I got it from listening to Gary Vee 3 years ago. I went ahead and you said that's going to be the next app, and I had it. And so my wife's kid, not my kid, my stepdaughter, was kind of like, "You're on TikTok?" She found it in my phone, and I was like, "I didn't know that." And so I started getting in there and started looking around, and I came back into these guys, and I'm like, I'm going to eat my words on this TikTok thing. Like I feel like a dipshit. Because I just didn't. Yeah, James was over here. He's like, no, people are using it for good things. So anyway, where do you see TikTok? Where do you see TikTok going? I mean, do you find yourself doing more TikTok things these days? I like the guy Parker you had on the other day. Seems like a smart kid. Went and followed him, so I'm watching a little bit of his content, and I'm just trying to learn from some of these kids right now. So what do you think about TikTok?
What I do know is that you can no longer ignore it. It's way too big. It's grown way too fast. There's so much ability to get organic reach, meaning just by putting up some creative video, you can get tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people to see you when they don't even follow you. They have no idea you exist. It's crazy. Admittedly, I have no idea what I should be doing on TikTok. I'm on it. I've put out like 7 or 8 videos. Just trying to learn it. That's what I did with Snapchat back in the day. I didn't quite get Snapchat. I was like, this is ridiculous, because it's just so different than Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, right? It was so different. TikTok is so different. And so like with Snapchat, I didn't get it until I saw somebody stringing together 10-second snaps, multiple 10-second snaps at a time to tell a story. And it clicked for me. I was like, there's the power right there. And then you can put some, draw on it and put an emoji on top or whatever. But I got it. I haven't quite gotten that with TikTok yet, but seeing how some of my videos, like one of my videos, first of all, set a time limit. If you're going to start experiencing TikTok, set a time limit. Put a 10 or 15 minute timer on it.
I noticed that on
You
Friday
get lost
night.
in there.
Oh my gosh. All of a sudden, half an hour or 45 minutes is just gone forever. You'll never get it back. And you're like, what the hell did I just watch? And some of the stuff's really funny, really creative. But how do you do that to grow a brand that isn't unnatural to you? I'm sure that, Dave, when you were railing against it, you're probably railing against how it was being used by some people.
Yeah.
Right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. And I see it too. Agents get on there and they think either they're going to just do the same listing walkthrough videos that they do everywhere else, or they think because they're on TikTok that they should be dancing like an idiot. Either one's bad. Unless you dance, unless that's your personality, like awesome. Right. Then TikTok's obviously for you. But that's not me. So what I did, I was just experimenting. I took a video of my 2-year-old daughter who was eating her lasagna with the feet of her Barbie doll. So her Barbie doll's feet were her spoon. I threw it up there, and I had like 14,000 views, and I had like 3 or 4 people following me, and it went nuts. And I'm like, well, that's powerful. I know that it's there. I just haven't figured it out, but I'm sure as hell watching for that moment when I get it. It's just too big and too powerful to ignore. Will it be here for 10 years? Probably not. But why wouldn't you take advantage of everything you could right now And look, even if you only use TikTok for 6 months, whatever you learn from it, whatever skills you learn from it are going to help you. Because like I said, when I was on Snapchat and I was just like me talking to my phone, I'd never done that before. Me talking to my phone a few times a day, every day, all of a sudden I'm not nervous in front of the camera at all. It was because of the practice I was putting in on Snapchat. Then when Instagram stories came out, I got it immediately because it's basically the same thing. And so I don't even use Snapchat anymore. I deleted it from my phone. But,
oh, wow.
But it changed my life in so many ways. So you've got to get out there and taste TikTok and just watch and see what other people are doing, follow hashtags. And the same with any platform. It's not a TikTok thing. It's a, being on top of the tools available thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that helps with, kind of as we get a little bit older too, I don't want to become disconnected to the newest things out in the market right now,
Yeah.
but on the
you
TikTok,
become an old
one
man,
thing,
outdated fuddy-duddy.
exactly. The gray beard is kind of showing that, but the greatest thing about TikTok so far that I've experienced is some of the 15-second clips of the music that's on there. So I've been repurposing the music, finding out who it is, going back over to YouTube to find out who it is, and then actually really kind of going into Facebook stories and then adding them to my Facebook stories that I do. I try to keep up with every single day with the podcast and, everything else. When I'm doing the videos, I put that cool music to the stuff that I'm doing. Like I did one this morning real quick. And it was like, I absolutely love that song. The whole song sucks. 15 seconds of that song is pretty awesome. And then it gets long and drawn out as it goes on. But that's what I've gotten from it so far. And I've been diving in on the Wilco Eats end. The food thing is always a good excuse for me to try out new platforms where it doesn't have to be me. So I can run it through kind of like a dummy test account with Wilco Eats. And then if I can figure it out, boom, then I'll pop on the whole Snowburger Realty group and the podcast. And I'll have 5 different accounts like I do for Instagram, right? So, all right, let's switch gears again real quick if you got time. Let's get into podcasting, because I know a lot of people that we talk to reach out to us and say, hey, man, I really want to do a podcast. Can you give me any tips? Hey, man, I really want to do this. I've got the equipment. I went out and I spent $1,500 on all this great equipment and everything else, and I can't figure it out. Can you help me? And it's just kind of like, man, you don't need any of that stuff. I know that you started really with an iPhone, and that we started with one. I think you have the same mic right there, that Yeti mic.
Blue Yeti.
We started with a Yeti mic in the thing, and that thing is so sensitive. I mean, you can hear a mouse toot in the next county. It's just kind of like, man, this thing picks up everything. It was one thing, and everybody was talking into it, and then we switched over, and I bought some other stuff. So we've gradually gotten better with equipment, but it was never about equipment for us. It was just about just doing it. We just figured it out. So let's dive into that real quick. In your experience, what's been the most challenging aspect of podcasting for you?
The most challenging has just been being consistent 110 straight weeks. That's been the toughest thing. Like I said before, topics are not really like coming up with ideas for shows. I don't struggle with. There's been times though, admittedly, where because my show comes out every Thursday morning, just like clockwork, unless the few times where I scheduled it for 12 p.m. instead of 12 a.m. on Thursday. I have done that before. Freaking AM PM. It's funny that we don't even use alarm clocks anymore, but now it's haunting my podcasting career. That's fantastic.
Right.
So I'll have a show to do on Monday or Tuesday, and I'm like, or sometimes I'll wait till Wednesday. I'm like, damn it, I have to do a show. And then I sit down and I'm just like, boom, and just throw it out there, or I'll refer to the list. Sometimes I refer to the list and I don't like any of them. I just like to be in the mood for whatever it is. But I just made a decision that when I started that I was going to do it every single week, not for 100 episodes, not for 200, not for 1,000. I don't know. I'm just going to do it every single week. And I've made it a top priority. We can all do that. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. What are you going to prioritize? I prioritize that. And so that's been the hardest thing for me, because I travel, I have a family, I have 2 young kids. I have my wife stays at home. God bless her. She's freaking superwoman. But I like to, there's distractions, and I'm still running other businesses. Right. So if I'm able to figure it out, so can everyone else. It's really a fairly easy thing to do once you start doing it. I know it's, to someone who's never done it, they're like, well, that's easy for you to say. It's easy. It is easy for me to say. It is easy for me to say. It's easy for you guys to say. It's easy for anyone to say who's done more than 3 episodes. You just have to learn a couple things. Use this thing, plug it in here, record here, edit this way, blah, blah, blah. Use this program to edit. I'll get specific. I use a Blue Yeti mic, which I don't even recommend first. It's just the one that was most popular. Great sound, but like you said, it can hear a mouse fart, 3 counties over. Good thing mouse farts are funny. So at least that's good content. A Blue Yeti is like $120 on Amazon. There's a mic by Audio Technica called the ATR 2100. Why can't they just give it a name like Blue Yeti? But ATR 2100, it's like $70, and it's much less sensitive, but still has great sound. It travels well, and it's also a USB mic. I think, look, I could upgrade. I could go spend $500 on a Shure mic that Joe Rogan and Gary Vee and everyone uses, because you don't have to worry about having a screen filter or anything. But I just want it easy. I just plug a USB cable into my MacBook and I start talking into ScreenFlow, which is a video editing software.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I use. It was software I was already using for video, and I just use it for audio, and it sounds great. That's all I need. I use Buzzsprout as my hosting platform. I know most people use Libsyn. You guys use Libsyn?
Libsyn.
I'm sorry. I've tried Libsyn before. I've tried it. Buzzsprout is just so user-friendly, so simple, and it does literally all the same things that Libsyn does. So you just need a hosting platform, which is where you upload the audio file to, and it sends it out to Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Alexa, everywhere. The hosting platform does that automatically for you. So I use Buzzsprout, swear by it. Other than that, you just need to have a plan and know what you're going to talk about and have consistency to each episode. Make sure it starts the same way and ends the same way. You don't need a big fancy intro. Just have some consistency every time. It's a psychological thing. I mean, could you imagine if your favorite show, your favorite TV show like Breaking Bad or Seinfeld or whatever, had like a completely different random opening to it? It would be weird, and you probably wouldn't have made it to become a huge fan because it just didn't seem like it's your show.
Right.
There's something powerful about that. So if it's music that opens, do music. If you have a professional intro done like I did, do that. If you just start the show by saying certain words, do that. Do it every time.
Cool. Yeah, I liked your intro when I first heard it. I like to buy houses and sell houses. And the funny thing, when I showed Marshall, he hates the word houses. And so he's like, I automatically hate it. Like he couldn't get that.
I hate the word homes for some reason.
I always get tripped up. Houses. You want to see some houses today?
Yeah. And I always thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, we did the same thing. I went out to Fiverr, which most people don't know, is I went over to Fiverr and I said, hey, I want some intro music. We kind of played around with some stuff that we found, and we sent it over to Fiverr for $15. Some guy created a cool intro and outro music just right there for $15. And I was blown away and like, cool. Everybody heard it. I played it in the office and everybody's heads were bobbing. And I was like, okay, that's it. And we're never going to change it, Right. And I feel bad over all this time. Now it says with your host, Dave Snowberger, and there's 3 of us. It's kind of like, sorry guys, it's like, I'm not trying to take all the credit, but it's going to sound weird if we say, Dave Snowberger and Marshall Tucker and James Mendez, the butcher, and so that's why I at least try to come in real quick and introduce them as fast as possible as my co-host, because we don't really want to change up the intro. So I agree with you. And once again, like the validation of consistency is key. We were running the Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast. So we exceeded 100 episodes in a year really fast. And then we just realized it was too much. It was too much, and having to come up with that much content for 3 times or interview that many people. And the whole basis was to interview top people in the industry like yourself that can pour back into the people that are just getting into the industry, the people that are struggling, or even the agents that have been around for 5-7 years that still can't figure it out. And so these interviews to me are where the podcast wanted to go in the first place. And so we're going to naturally progress into that. And so you took us out of our comfort zone today doing the Zoom thing, which we've done 2 or 3 times. However, more than likely we'll stay with this platform. We just have to figure out our audio so I can bring back in my real microphone, my Shure mic that I use and all that stuff. I found it on Craigslist though for only $80.
Oh, nice. Did you have a USB mic prior?
Yeah, we had the Blue Yeti.
Oh, that's right. Was it? See, that's something that scares me. I'm like, it's so easy to just plug the USB into the laptop I'm already using. Is it a big learning curve to do the whatever you call it with using a mixer and all that stuff, or is it fairly easy?
No, dude, because
No.
we use the. Is that a horn?
Roadcaster Pro. Yeah, the stupid. We're near a high
sensitive
school.
mics.
We have a
Oh my
a
god.
daycare next
horrible.
door that when they empty the new rules are when they empty the bus out, that alarm goes off until the instructor, whoever's driving the bus, goes all the way to the back to check to make sure it's empty, and
my
then
gosh.
shuts off the horn. So every once in a while it shuts off, it goes off. So sorry about that. Completely lost my train of thought. But we use the board. What's that board we use, James?
Roadcaster Pro.
The
There's a new one.
Roadcaster Pro.
Yeah.
That was a little game changer for us. It just made it easier because your USB card goes right in. You hit record. James had to figure that one out. That you actually hit record and the button turns.
I pushed it. It
turns-
has it has
big
some
green
issues
button-
sometimes.
Yeah, the big green button that says record has to turn red, and
Yeah.
and then we go from there. And so we each have our own volume. I got 4 microphones off of
Amazon.
Amazon for like the whole kit was like $150, and I liked them. I just found that Shure mic myself, and so I went and bought it for, like I said, $80 from some guy. I met him in a church parking lot. So he was a fireman that his girlfriend left at his house, and they broke up. And I was like, cool, I'll take it.
That's awesome.
You know?
Is that
So-
the one that $500 Joe Rogan, Gary Vee?
Yeah,
everyone
It
mic?
absolutely is. And the funny thing is a lot of times I listen to these podcasts, and I'll go back and listen in my truck on the way to work, and I think the guys sound better than me, and they have $25 condenser mics, and I have this $400 killer mic, and I don't think I sound that great. I feel like it's not right, but
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's all trial and error. And what I've learned is that you can't learn any of this unless you're actively doing a show.
mhm.
I hear this all the time. Like, well, I need to learn all these things before I launch my show. No, you don't. You don't learn to drive without getting behind the wheel and driving.
Mhm.
That you just have to do it, because the discussion we're having right now will make no sense to anyone who doesn't use microphones.
Right.
And they're like USB condenser, like what, mixer board. Like, I mean, mixer board is even like that's over my head because I don't use one. But I understand what it is. I've seen it because I'm doing a podcast, and I've seen others do it too. Just do it and learn it. And if you can get the topic right, if you can talk about something that people actually want to hear about in a way that they find entertaining, don't force it, but just be yourself. Try to think about what's going to keep their attention and what they actually want to hear about. If you get that topic right, it does the heavy lifting. It does the heavy lifting. I've listened to a 4.5-hour podcast episode with Joe Rogan, with Elon Musk, Alex Jones,
Mhm.
because it's just freaking interesting. I've also turned off a podcast that was 10 minutes long after 45 seconds because it was boring and I thought it was garbage. So the length doesn't matter. It's all about what is the topic, who's the guest.
Yeah.
If there's no guest, what are you talking about? That does the heavy lifting. Don't worry about the audio quality. Russell Brunson, the founder of ClickFunnels, he records his podcast on earbuds in the car on his iPhone while he's driving to and from the office.
Yeah.
And nobody cares because it's great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard some ones with some pretty bad audio, but the content was good, so I powered through it.
You tolerate it.
Yeah, and so there's one that's out there. It's every single day they release one. The Tim and Julie Harris, they have a coaching program.
Mhm.
A lot of times they have some decent content, and so they do theirs live every single day, and it's
Do they use a
just
phone?
absolutely horrible. Yeah, the call-in
Ugh.
stuff. And
Guys, use Zoom, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and they live in Puerto Rico. They don't like to be on camera. They're not very tech savvy. They just invited me to be on a kind of a mastermind group on Marco Polo. I was like,
Marco
what?
Polo.
Yeah, like
Okay.
is that app resurging? Like I didn't know, but I'll check it out because Tim usually has pretty good content. He's kind of he's against all the things that we like to do, the social media, the casting a wide net, the marketing. He's more of that brass tacks, go hammer the phones, do it all old school stuff. And I think
Yeah.
there's a good combination of both that can come together for people that can work, because we're like you, a marketing team. we're a marketing company that really knows how to sell real estate, and grab
Right.
clients and cast that wide net to get our phones ringing, because we don't want to be those people that are knocking on doors and cold calling people, disrupting their days and all that other stuff. So we like to cast a wide net to bring leads into us, and we seem to be doing okay at it, and you do as well. We'll go ahead and start wrapping this thing up here, but I wanted to ask you a question. I had one right here that I thought was a pretty good one, but what are you working on right now that you're most excited about?
I'm most excited about the Industry Syndicate podcast network. So you guys probably get asked this. Anyone who has a real estate show, I think anyone who has any show that people listen to regularly, I used to get asked, well, I still do, where can I find other shows like yours? Like, I like yours, but what are some other good ones? Because the podcast platforms, the search functionality sucks, especially on Apple. You never know what you're going to get. It's incomplete, and it's still kind of a mystery of who shows up on those searches. And there's all sorts of random factors, like how many subscribers you've had in the last 48 hours and stuff. So it's hard to find new podcasts that are similar to what you like. So we launched a network of podcasts and video shows for real estate and mortgage pros, real estate agents, mortgage loan officers. We have the #1 appraisal show on the planet. I think there's 6 of them, but we have the #1 on the network. And the goal is to be that go-to resource for anyone in the greater housing industry to go find great content. And so I'm super excited about that. It's needed in the industry, podcasting, even though everyone thinks, a lot of people think that they've missed the boat on doing their own. There's what, 1 million podcasts on Apple, or less than, like, it's right around 1 million.
Something like that.
How many websites are there? Billions, right? So,
Right.
or hundreds of millions, whatever. Is it too late to start a website? Like, is it too late to create an Instagram account? No. If you have good stuff, you're going to do fine. So podcasting is still in its infancy, still catching on. I think it's going to become the go-to medium. And so I'm stoked about the Industry Syndicate podcast network for the industry. And I'm one of the co-founders of it.
Well, cool. Congratulations on the success on that. I like the
Thank
little acronym for it too, ISPN. You might get sued for ESPN, but
No, I didn't even notice that. We're going to run with it with the red letters and everything.
You should.
Yes.
Okay. So 3 people. Who are your most 3 influential people in the business right now?
Who are agents?
No, just anyone that's really
Okay.
influencing you to do the things that you're doing every single day, to keep putting out content. Who are your daily drivers, I guess? We look up to
Gotcha.
people that we go out and we find, and I study smart people, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Gary V. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's mine. I don't consume his stuff that often anymore because I'm just busy doing stuff. But he says stuff in a way that all the stuff we talked about, he says stuff in a way that really resonates, and it resonated with me at a time where I needed it. A lot of the stuff I started doing once I went down the road of content marketing, I started to learn and realize and focus on because of the perspective that he gave. And I don't know if I would even be here in this position at all if it wasn't for stumbling on someone else sharing a Gary V video. And I had no idea who he was, but I'm like, this guy's right. This guy, I like it. So Gary V still is definitely a mentor from afar. I really like Ed Milet for mindset, for any kind of personal development. I think Ed Milet is as good as it gets. I prefer listening to him over Tony Robbins or anybody else. I don't know. There's something about how he says things. And here's a lesson too, a little sidebar. If anyone's like, because I know people are thinking, well, I really want to do a local show or my own podcast or start a blog or whatever, but there's already other people doing it. There's already 10 others in my market doing it. There's no one that's doing it the way you would do it. There's no one that says things the way that you will say them.
right.
Nobody. And so I don't give a shit if there's 100 other podcasts in your small town, which there aren't, by the way. Even in major cities, there aren't 100 podcasts. But even if there were, no one will say things the way you do. So Tony Robbins, most people think of as like the personal development guy. I prefer Ed Milet because of the way he says things. So there's a little lesson for you. And then third, geez, that's kind of tough. Let me look at my phone here. So here's a podcast that I listen to. I've been listening to My First Million. That's done by The Hustle, and the host name is Sean something or other. He spells it in a way that I can't pronounce. But I really like My First Million. It's a bunch of super successful entrepreneurs telling the story of how they started their companies and what it looked like and the struggles they went through and the pivots they made and all of that. I'm in a spot right now where I'm really putting the entrepreneur hat on. And I think every agent should do that to a certain extent and start acting like an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. That show really helps me to get new ideas of how to do things, or just things that should be done that I didn't know about, or things that shouldn't be done. It's just a really good show called My First Million. Cool.
Lastly, what's the biggest accomplishment you're the most proud of right now out of your past 9 years?
Business wise, probably, well, definitely just being consistent 110 episodes with the Massive Agent podcast.
That's cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm
consistency
proud of it.
Is the hardest thing.
It really is. It really is. And I mean, we'll break 200,000 downloads here in probably a month or two. It's caught on. It's done well. I know there's much bigger shows out there in the industry. I don't care. Like it's amazing how much impact you can make with. You don't need millions of people in an audience. You just don't. I don't have millions of people in my audience, not even close, but it's made a big impact on my life. It's made a big impact on other agents' lives. Some of the messages I get are absolutely mind-blowing from agents that have listened and made pivots or they were about to quit and didn't, and now they're having the best year of their career and stuff. And it's so heavy to me that I'm just extremely proud of it.
Fantastic. All right. So, in parting here, I want them to be able to listen to your podcast. So tell us a little bit more about you, how to get in touch with you, where to find you, where to consume your content, and those that are really struggling out there, how they can just find you to help out.
First, I'd recommend they go back and listen to your first episode and then keep listening forward from there, because you guys have great stuff. I like your guys' energy, and you guys are putting out great stuff. When they're done with that, just go to massiveagentpodcast.com. You can download the Industry Syndicate app. We have a mobile app for the podcast network. It's not the best player for podcasts, but it'll help you discover new shows and get links to Apple or to Spotify or wherever you want to listen. That's available for free, totally free over on the App Store or Google Play. But just throw Massive Agent Podcast into the Googler and you'll find my show.
Fantastic. Well, once again, thanks for taking time out of your day to hang out with us. We could probably keep this going for a few more hours. However, in the sake of getting things done today, I'll let you go. But thanks again, man. We'll be in touch and
for sure.
Keep killing it, dude.
Thanks,
Dustin,
Dave.
Appreciate listening to you.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's been an honor.
Thanks, buddy. See ya.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Real Estate on the Rocks. We certainly appreciate you listening. Do not forget to hit that 5-star button and leave a review. Help us out so we can continue to help you. And we are EXP agents, so if you want to join EXP or talk about EXP or you're EXP curious, text Join EXP to 88000. And don't forget our man over there, Magic Mike over at Guaranteed Rate. Magic Mike at 88000 is how you get in touch with him. And I'm going. I'm out.